So, uh, good afternoon to everybody one more time. We were discussing about working capital financing. In yesterday's session, we had seen up to maximum bank permissible finance. Today, before moving on with today's topics, let's go for a very quick revision of yesterday's session and then we will continue with our today's session. So, these are the various sources of short-term financing accruals, trade credit. We discussed about all these things, working capital advances by commercial banks, regulations of bank finance, public deposit. Today we are going to discuss, we are also going to discuss intercorporate deposit, short-term loans from financial institutions, right debentures for working capital and commercial paper and fact. These are the areas which we will be discussing today. So accruals, as you know, is being generated from the day-to-day activities only, and it is required by for day-to-day activities only. Trade credit, where you are getting credit from your suppliers, and the duration of those paying it back to the suppliers gives you additional fund in your hand. So if you are paying late or if you're delaying the payment, you can be able to utilize that fund for that much period of time. So that is trade credit. It is a spontaneous source of finance. It is easily available. So you do not need to pay any kind of interest or all. Even there are various ways of calculating the cost of credit. We had discussed it. Terms that you need to keep in mind is this is what I'm discussing about 1 by 10 net 20. How to how to understand this term 1 by 10. If you are paying your bill within 10 days, you are going to get a credit of 1% discount of 1% from the supplier on the bill amount. If you are unable to make a payment within this time frame, within this 10 days, then in that case, your total net credit payment period is of 20 days. But from 11th day onwards to 20th day, you're not supposed to get any kind of discount which was earlier available if you're making a payment within 10 days. So this can be changed. This can be different from supplier to supplier. It is not like that all supplier will be providing you the same amount of discount, same amount of credit period. Some of the suppliers give a credit period of 90 days also. Majority in cases in corporates, 90 days credit period is being granted. So this changes from case to case, supplier to supplier, industry to industry. We discussed that how this trade credit can be available to you and what are the advantages and disadvantages. Working capital advance by commercial bank. If commercial bank is providing any kind of working capital advances or fund for your working capital, then what is the process? We discussed all these things. That application you need to apply to the bank. They will process it. They will sanction on certain terms and conditions. These are the various forms of bank finances. Bank may provide you fund on the basis of cash credits or in types of overdrafts. Bank may give you loans. Bank may discount your bills that you're supposed to pay to your suppliers, and letter of credit can also be made. It can be available from the bank side to you so that you can be able to continue your business. But for getting all these things, certain kind of securities are being demanded by the bank. They can be either hypothecated or can be pledged. Hypothecation, you can be able to use your assets. It remains under your ownership. Pledge, the ownership gets transferred to the bank. Bank keeps the bank holds these respective assets, whatever assets you are pledging. And once you repay your entire loan, you repay entire fund that had been taken from the bank by you, your security that is pledged will be released and margin amount is required. Bank do not give 100% loan for everything that is being demanded by the bank. Bank gives you only 75, 70, 80, 85%. Rest that you need to manage. So that is margin amount. This is what we discussed yesterday about maximum permissible bank finance, MPBF. So Tandon committee suggested various methods for determining the MPBF. One is 75% of net current assets, that is current liabilities minus current asset minus current liabilities. Second is 75% of current assets minus current liabilities, and 75% of the net core current assets minus current liabilities. So these are the various three methods through which maximum permissible bank finance can be allotted for your working capital funding. Public deposits. Now, other than that, other than approaching to the bank and financial institutions, uh, corporates can also take working capital funding from public in the form of public deposits. These are unsecured deposits from public. Public deposits cannot exceed 25% of the share capital and free reserves. The maximum maturity period allowed for public deposit is of 3 years. However, for NBFCs, it is of 5 years. So these are the various characteristics, various things that we need to keep in mind. First of all, it is an unsecured deposit. We had seen debentures, if you can recall, in the long-term sources of finance, where a company is supposed to issue debentures. Now, issuing debenture is secured secured loans. So whenever a bank is issuing debentures, banks used to go for, sorry, corporates used to go for secured debentures. That means that respective fund loan is being hypothecated under certain kind of assets. But for short-term fundings, it is always unsecured deposits. People, those who are making a deposit with the corporates, those deposits are not guaranteed against the certain kind of assets, against the assets of the company. So it becomes an unsecured deposit. If company gets solvent, then that deposit will get uh, away from the people. Public deposits cannot exceed 25% of the share capital and free reserves. What amount the corporate can raise in the form of a public deposit? So it should not be more than 25% of the share capital and free reserves that the corporates hold. And the period should not be more than 3 years. You are supposed to pay it back within 3 years. Definitely, public deposits comes with certain rate of interest. It is not free of interest. Corporates have to pay interest on public deposits, and it will be for 3 years. However, in case of NBFCs, non-banking financial corporations, it is of 5 years. Non-banking financial companies, it is of 5 years. Intercorporate deposits, other than asking common people, individuals to deposit money to go for public deposits, to go for people for depositing money in the corporate houses. Corporates can go for intercorporate deposits also. Intercorporate deposit is one corporate house funds deposits fund in another corporate house. That is termed as intercorporate deposits. Again, as public deposit was unsecured, this intercorporate deposit is also unsecured. But a deposit made by one company with another normally is up to 6 months of period. It is referred to as an intercorporate deposit. If we can recall, public deposits were for 3 years. Maturity period is for 3 years. This is a maximum time period. This is not the minimum time period. So whereas if you see here, intercorporate deposits, the corporates are depositing money in another corporate houses, another business houses, that comes with a 6 months of maturity period. Again, it is unsecured, as public deposits were unsecured. In the same way, this is also unsecured. Intercorporate deposits usually are of three types: call deposits, 3 month deposits, and 6 month deposit. Now, call deposit. Whenever the corporate house which had landed fund to another company at any point of time, whenever that respective company needs fund back, that fund is supposed to be repaid to the same company. That is known as call deposit. Let's say there are two companies, company ABC and company XYZ. If company ABC is giving a loan to company XYZ, and after maybe a month, maybe a couple of months, whenever company ABC needs this fund back, they can ask company XYZ to repay that deposit, repay their fund. So that is known as a call deposit. 3 months deposit and 6 months deposit, the name itself suggests that what kind of deposit it is. The deposits will mature in 3 months and the deposits will mature in 6 months. These are again, these deposits also come with the interest rate. It is not free of cost at all. And they attract certain interest, and that's why corporates are interested to deposit in this month. This is kind of deposits. Generally, all companies do not go for intercorporate deposits. All companies do not invest in intercorporate deposits. Uh, if company is known, if two managements are known to each other, then only these deposits happen. So this is intercorporate deposits. Characteristics of intercorporate deposits: it is lack of regulation. There is no regulation at all. So whatever amount they want, they can invest, they can lend, they can borrow with another corporate houses to another corporate houses. So there is no regulations that what amount of fund is supposed to be deposited against, what kind of security it is supposed to be deposited. There is no regulations. Secrecy. It can be kept secret that who had deposited, who had issued money. That will not come into the legal transactions. And importance of personal contact, as I so told you earlier, that where you will be depositing. If you are a corporate house, to whom you will be lending, so you will be lending to one who is known to you, and you will not lend to one who is not known to you. So personal context matters here, and this is how intercorporate deposits work on. Short-term loans from financial institutions. If we talk about financial institutions, generally short-term loans are available. Insurance companies provide short-term loans to manufacturing companies with an excellent track record. So if some companies are there, some corporate houses are there which have an excellent track record in terms of earning, track record in terms of repayment, track record in terms of uh, all other financial records, uh, generating revenue, good sales amount, and everything. So such kind of companies can get loans from insurance companies. See, insurance companies are the companies where you will find that they have a huge potential of money with them. So whenever any company is looking for a loan and insurance companies are having huge amount, huge amount of surplus with them, they can issue loans to the companies also. So any company which is good in record, good in financial records, can approach to the insurance companies for loan. Such loans are unsecured and given for a period of 1 year, renewable for 2 consecutive years. So these loans are basically unsecured in nature, as we discussed earlier. These loans are unsecured. All these short-term loans are unsecured. Only long-term loans were secured. Again, if you can recall, some certain companies who used to go for a long-term loans like debentures and all, they are also these days issuing unsecured debentures rather than secured debentures. So corporate houses are not going for any secured debentures or any secured loans these days. So unsecured loans are there for a maximum of period of 1 year. But after the completion of 1 year, the same can be renewed. The loan can be renewed, and it can be renewed for 2 consecutive years. Again, when it is renewed for the second time, it is for 1 year, and it can be renewed one more time for the third year. So this also comes to 3 years. As you can recall, we were talking about public deposit where the maturity period was of 3 years, maximum 3 years. Here also the insurance companies can invest in one single company in the form of unsecured deposits for maximum period of 3 years and not more than that. A company which is to be eligible for such loans should satisfy certain conditions relating to dividend payment, debt equity ratio, current ratio, and interest coverage ratio. So these are the various conditions that a company is supposed to fulfill. They should have fulfilled these respective financial data, and then only they can be able to become eligible to get loans from the insurance company. Now, which are these conditions? So it is dividend payment. The company should have paid a dividend regularly at a certain time of interval. So that gives a trust that okay, the interest can be paid by the company on a certain point of time. Regular payment will be received by the company. So that insurance company becomes quite uh, relaxed in case of that if dividend payment is available. Debt to equity ratio. What is the debt equity ratio? If debt equity ratio is low, that the proportion of debt in the entire capital structure is less compared to equity, Then also a company, insurance company is quite satisfied that interest burden is not very high, so interest can be paid to the insurance companies by the corporates. Current ratio, current assets divided by current liabilities. So if current liabilities are less compared to current assets, then the current ratio is good, and the company can be able to, whenever, in any case, if the company gets insolvent, the same can be the deposits can be recovered with the help of selling the assets. And interest cover ratio, all these things when are good in picture, the company becomes eligible to get loans from the insurance companies or from the financial institutions. Now these financial institutions does not mean bank we had already discussed. We had discussed about uh, we had discussed the maximum permissible bank finance and working capital by commercial banks. So other than banks, any financial institution is offering loans or short-term deposits to the corporates will be going out for all such kind of financial data. And if the company is quite eligible on the base of this data, then such kind of companies will be able to can be able to attract short-term loans or deposits from the financial companies. Rights debenture for working capital. A company can issue rights debenture for its shareholders to augment the long-term source of the working capital requirement. Rights debenture. Those who are having already shares or debentures of the existing company can come with a right debenture. That means the debentures can be issued to the bondholders or to the shareholders only. It is not open for common people, for all, or to general public, but as it's a rights issue, will be sold to the existing shareholders only. This gives them, the existing shareholders, one more kind or one more way to earn more money from the company, and they are ready to invest. So it is one kind of long-term source of working capital requirements that can be utilized. The key guidelines applicable to right debentures relate to quantum of such issues and the debt equity ratio. So the rules that are applicable to debentures are applicable to right debentures also. And one more thing that we need to keep in mind is what is the debt equity ratio. If debt equity ratio is not good, is not proper, then such kind of debentures cannot be issued by the company. Commercial paper. Commercial paper represents short-term unsecured promissory notes issued by firms which enjoy a fairly high credit rating. See, this is one more kind of a instrument through which a company can be able to generate short-term funds, commercial paper. But commercial papers, as it is mentioned here, enjoy a fairly high credit rating. So the company which is rated by various credit rating agencies for debentures for commercial papers can be able to issue such kind of things, such kind of unsecured promissory notes. Promissory notes are a kind of a notes in which the corporates used to go for a kind of a promise to the people, to the common people, those who are buying such kind of. This is equally like a bond or debentures only, but it is named as a commercial paper, and they carry a good. Only certain good companies, certain good credit rated companies can be able to come out with commercial papers. Not all corporate houses, not all private companies can come out with commercial papers. So commercial paper is either directly placed with investors or sold through dealers. Majority of the kind where a company is looking for a huge amount of short-term funding, at that time they are directly placed with the investors. So they can be sold to certain or few investors, few large investors, few HNI investors, and can the fund can be collected or generated, or it can be sold through dealers. So there is no public issues kind of thing in commercial papers. The effective pre-tax cost of commercial paper is, this is how the pre-tax cost can be calculated. Face value minus net amount realized divided by net amount realized multiplied by 360 divided by maturity period. So this is the formula through which you can be able to calculate what is the effective pre-tax cost of the commercial paper. Factoring. this is something important. What is factoring? We discussed about earlier discounting of bills. Now, discounting of bill was done by a bank. Other than bank, if any other financial institution which offers such kind of services, this is not only discounting of bill, but it also managing the entire activity of discounting of bill. It is known as factoring, and this can be done by any financial institutions. So a factor is a financial institution which offers services relating to management and financing of debt arising from credit sales. So generally, account receivables. I hope you understand what is the account receivable. Let me just clarify one more time. If you are going for a credit sale, your debtors being arise in your business. When you send a bill to the debtors with the payment conditions and they accept that, they sign that, it becomes account receivables. So there's a payment condition of certain maturity is there, maybe 30 days, maybe 90 days, maybe 60 days. And in between that maturity period, if you need fund, you may approach to a financial institution who is ready to buy such kind of bills, and they will be providing you fund for those bills. The remaining amount, now this is how the structure is. If we'll go to the slide, you can be able to understand the structure. Look at this. Client. Now client is one who is selling goods and services. Buyer is the customer. In between these two, you will find a factor. Now factor is one who actually connects the entire payment channel of customer and seller in a very easy way. What happens generally? If we'll see this entire structure, you'll understand. Customer places order for buying goods and services from the seller. Seller approaches to the factor, demands for providing money because customer may have demanded for credit sales. So they will immediately move on to the factor. Factor will agree. The factor will check out the credibility of the customer, whether customer can be able to make a payment or not, and all those things will be checked by the factor. So factor checks all those things and provides a gives a green signal to the seller that seller can sell goods and services to the customer. Once this respective intimation is being received from the factor to the seller, seller deliver goods and invoice with the notice to pay the factor. Generally what happens, if you'll see, when a seller is selling goods and services to the customer and issues and invoices, the amount is supposed to be paid by the customer to the seller. In case of factoring, this will not happen. Here the seller intimates the customer that you need to make the payment to the factor and not to the seller. The payment will be going back to the factor. But why the payment should go back to the factor rather than going to the seller? Because once the goods and services is being delivered to the customer and invoice is being sent to the customer, a same copy, a duplicate copy of invoice will be received by the factor also. So that factor will come to know that sales had taken place, goods had been delivered from seller to buyer, and buyer has accepted the consignment, accepted the goods and services that is being sent by the seller. So factor will come to know, okay, now it's a time for payment. So what factor will do now? The factor will make a payment, upfront payment. Maybe it is mentioned here 80%, but it depends case to case, amount and various other things. Factor may make a payment ranging up to 70 to 80%. So upfront payment is being received by the client immediately. Generally, in a credit terms, client will have to wait for 90 days or 30 days or 60 days, depending on the uh, credit terms that has been signed by these two people. Instead of waiting for such a long period, the client or the seller receives the fund, receives some 70 to 80% upfront payment on an immediate basis once the bill is being generated and sent to the customer and to the factor. So this respective person is not supposed to wait for a longer period of time. Now, if payment is being made by the factor to the client and the same is being intimated to the buyer also, factor immediately intimates the buyer that upfront payment had been made this much percentage to the seller, and now this factor will start follow up to the buyer that by what time you are going to make a payment to me or to the factor. So the buyer at a certain point, maybe let's say the credit period only, let's say 60 days or 30 days. So after the completion of the credit period, the buyer will make a payment to the factor. So the buyer is not going to pay 80 percentage or 70 percentage. Buyer is supposed to make a full 100% payment to the factor. So the entire 100% amount is being received by the factor. Remember, we had the factor had paid only 70 to 80% over here. So there's a balance remaining with the factor. So once the customer pays all the 100% fund to the factor, factor immediately releases the balance payment to the client or to the seller. So this is how this entire factoring works on. I hope this is clear to you all. And we are completing it over here. If you have any queries, you can immediately ask.